Tell me you don't care what people think of you. Go ahead. Most of us say it and most of us believe it. I am not interested in status. I don't care about impressing anyone. I just do my own thing. Now let me describe a few small moments and you tell me how many you recognize. The flicker of something sour when a person you don't even like posts good news. The way you mention just a little too casually where you went to school, or what you do for a living, or the trip you just took. The involuntary lift when an important person remembers your name, and the little sting when they don't. The brand you tell yourself you bought for the quality. The number under the thing you posted, the one you said you didn't care about and then checked, and checked again. None of these are crimes. They are something stranger. They are the visible edges of a game you are playing every single day, while sincerely believing you are not playing at all. The game is for status, and the first rule of the game, the rule that keeps it running, is that you must never admit you are playing. So let's break that rule. Let's look directly at the invisible competition that shapes what you buy, what you say, what you believe, and even what you call your morality. Because you cannot stop playing a game you cannot see. The most useful map of this game comes from the writer Will Storr in a book called The Status Game. Human beings, he argues, are not primarily driven by money or pleasure or even simple survival. We are driven by status, by rank, by the sense that we matter in the eyes of the people around us. And it is older than vanity. We evolved in small groups where your place in the hierarchy could decide whether you ate, whether you were protected, whether you survived. So evolution did something ruthless. It wired the pursuit of status directly into our feelings. Climbing feels wonderful. Falling feels like a kind of death. That sour flicker when someone else wins is not a character flaw. It is a status alarm, firing inside a brain that still half believes every drop in rank could kill you. And the game has a final cruel feature. It has no finish line. The person with 1 million admirers wants 2 million. Whatever rank you reach quietly becomes the new normal, and your eyes lift to the next rung. We are not playing to win. There is no winning. We are just playing forever. If this sounds like a modern social media problem, it is much older. In 1759, Adam Smith, the founding father of economics, wrote a book called The Theory of Moral Sentiments, and in it he asked a deceptively simple question. Why do we actually want to be rich? The obvious answer is comfort, but Smith looked closer and said no. A person of modest means already has enough to be fed, sheltered, and comfortable. The pursuit of wealth beyond that is chasing something else. And his answer is devastating. The advantages we hope to gain, he wrote, are to be observed, to be attended to be taken notice of with sympathy and approval. It is the vanity, he said, not the ease or the pleasure which interests us. The real prize was never the mansion. It was the eyes of other people on the mansion. And the poor man, Smith wrote, is ashamed of his poverty, not mainly because he suffers, but because it leaves him in obscurity. He goes out and comes in unheeded, and in the middle of a crowd, he is as unseen as if he were shut up alone at home. That is the true terror underneath the game. Not poverty, not discomfort, invisibility. We are not really chasing things. We are chasing the gaze. 140 years later, the economist Thorstein Veblen gave Smith's insight its lasting name. In 1899, in The Theory of the Leisure Class, he described what he called conspicuous consumption. The wealthy, he observed, do not just buy useful things. They buy waste on purpose because the waste is the signal. Anyone can buy a watch that tells the time. Only a certain kind of person can buy a watch that costs as much as a house and tells the time no better. The uselessness is the point. The expense is the message. By burning money on the useless, you prove you have so much you can afford the fire. And once you learn to see this, you see it everywhere. The handbag whose entire function is its logo. We tell ourselves it is quality or taste. Sometimes it partly is, but underneath is the oldest move in the game. Burning resources you do not need. To send a signal you would be embarrassed to say out loud. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the game does not stay politely inside your wallet, it gets into taste. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu spent a career showing that even our aesthetic preferences, the music we love, the food we find sophisticated, quietly function as markers of class. What we call simply our taste is in part a uniform. It gets into our opinions, which drift toward whatever earns approval in the room. And most uncomfortably, it gets into our morality. Storr describes three kinds of status game: dominance games won through force and fear, success games won through skill, and virtue games where status is won by being seen as good, holding the right values loudly in the right company. This is the most disguised move of all because it dresses the hunger for rank as pure principle. The wish to be good and the wish to be seen as good feel almost identical from the inside. But they are not the same thing, and the game thrives in the gap between them. And the game has a dark edge because it has pulled decent people into terrible things. In 1944 CS, Louis stood in front of a hall of university students and instead of congratulating them, warned them about something that would shape their entire life. He called it the inner ring. Inside every organization, every profession, every social world, there are two structures: the official one, written down, and a second invisible one, the inner circle. And Lewis said the desire to be inside that ring is one of the most powerful forces in human life. His warning was chilling. Of all human passions, he said, this one is the most skilled at making a fundamentally decent person do something they know is wrong, not for money, not out of cruelty, because the price of finally being let in was to go along with this small betrayal. The quiet dishonesty, it never feels dramatic. It feels like nothing more than the difference between being in and being out. The quest for the inner ring, Lewis said, will break your heart unless you break it first. So that is the game. Ancient, wired in shaping nearly everything with no end and no winner. If status drives all of it and you can never get enough, and even your virtue is suspect, what is left? Are we just status machines? No, but the way out is not quitting, because you cannot quit. Anyone who loudly renounces status, who performs their grand indifference to what others think, is playing a more sophisticated round of the same game, competing for the status of being above status. The exits are all rigged. You will play. The only freedom is in choosing how, because not all status games are the same, and you get to choose which ones you enter. There are zero-sum games of dominance and display, where you win only by making other people lose. And there are games where winning means becoming better at something real, more skilled, more useful to the people around you. Games where that ancient engine is pointed at something that leaves the world and you improve. And Lewis told those same students the way out. Stop trying to get into the circle. Make the work itself your aim. Care about doing the thing well, for its own sake, and you will find. He promised that almost without noticing, you have drifted into the only circle that ever mattered. The company of people genuinely good at the real thing, who recognize each other by craft, not exclusion. The status you stop chasing arrives quietly as a side effect of caring about something more than status. You're going to keep playing. Tomorrow, You will feel the little flush of pride and the little sting of envy and the quiet pull to be admitted, to be noticed, to matter. That machinery is older than your name and it is not going to switch off. To be human is to play for status, but you no longer have to play blind. You can feel the flicker of envy and instead of obeying it, read it like an instrument, telling you exactly which game has its hooks in you. You can catch the wish to be seen as good and ask whether you would still do the thing if no one would ever know. You can notice the pull of the inner ring and decide that staying outside is a price worth paying. And you can take the one drive you were never going to be free of and aim it on purpose at games worth winning. This status game cannot be quit, but it can be chosen. And choosing it consciously instead of being dragged through it half asleep is the whole difference between a life spent performing for a crowd that will forget you and a life spent becoming someone you would actually respect, whether anyone is watching or not. The crowd was never the price. It only ever felt that way because no one told you that you were playing a game. Now you know. So go and play a better one.